Getting called out by Sunbelt fans and midweek Sunbelt baseball. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Texas State hosting Texas, the number one team in the nation, later today, and more midweek Sunbelt action. We'll get to that. But I was called out, and rightfully so, by Sunbelt fans. So a little bit inside baseball, if you will. I'm always so consumed is probably the right word on what the next episode is going to be. And sometimes, many times, I do forget what I do say. So I even got called out and reminded about the Sunbelt Conference basketball tournament when I said, JMU may end up finishing really strong, but it may be a little bit, farce is not right, but a little bit of a facade would be a better word, because they weren't playing anyone any good, and they were one and done in the Sunbelt Conference tournament. They did, again, remember, they lost to Texas State, having a chance to be the number one seed, and they ended up not being that, I think number 3 seed, and they were one and done, and kind of got embarrassed being that way. But I had to be reminded that's what I had said. And we've been talking about this whole baseball RPI thing, and it's not just the Texas States beating A&M and Texas. And did App State, Coastal beat Clemson? Someone just beat Clemson, right? We talked about that. It's not just about those games. It is, Marshall eking out a win against Eastern Kentucky, right? It's those games where you can't lose, where there's not a huge benefit to winning, but it's awful if you lose. App State, case in point. And we can even talk about the other team that the Sunbelt may be competing against for an at-large berth. Somebody's going to need an at-large berth, right? Two of them might need one if Troy or Southern Miss don't win it. But App State loses to JMU, and their RPI falls to 166 from 144. And it all started, someone tweeted out, an App State fan tweeted it out that, boy, that's bad. We better, if we lose 2 out of 3 to Southern Miss, our RPI should go straight up. And it doesn't work quite that way. It probably will go up if you beat Southern Miss one time. But it doesn't quite work that way because you lost to a 175th team at home, which someone else pointed out. And then I said, I had people agreeing with me, and then I said, App State's RPI doesn't really matter because they can't get an at-large berth. They're going for seeding in the Sunbelt Conference tournament. That's why that loss hurts. I got called out for it, and rightfully so. They're like, no, it does hurt. Someone pointed out the obvious. You want to finish in the top 100 RPI. You're looking for a little success and a little improvement from years past. So that's one thing. But as in the case, what I said with the other teams, these midweek games that you don't want to lose, it hurts the rest of the league when you do lose to JMU. As we pointed out, they were, again, it would have been like 0.003 difference to be in the 5th seed or to be 6th RPI. Whereas now it's closer to 0.006, and they're very close to being 8th. A couple more bad losses, and the Sunbelt will be 8th, and that doesn't help anybody out. So it is interesting. I guess Troy came out, and go figure, because this is the way rankings work, right? You get into that top. We've said this. We said with basketball, baseball, especially football, right? Because if you sneak in as a Sunbelt team in football and everybody else in that top 25 is basically playing each other. So someone's going to lose, whereas if you're reeling off wins in the Sunbelt, you could start to move up, not necessarily being better than the other teams, but they lose and you win, so you move up. And that's kind of what's happened with Troy. Troy is 15th in the country rankings because they keep on moving up and other teams lose. But as we showed before, look at this. All right. So Northeastern is 35th RPI. Troy is 39th. Now you see the next number is strength of schedule. So Troy's strength of schedule is much better than Northeastern's. So that's why they may be in the top 25. We can do this. We can look at, let's see if we get the conference one. You can see conference RPI, the CAA. Oh, it's not even on there. It's not Conference USA. It's the Colonial is below that. So they're even further below than the Sunbelt. So Northeastern schedule. And again, Northeastern is going to be facing the same thing that we would say about what App State just did. They can afford to lose. We did that in yesterday's episode. They really can't afford to lose too much at all because they're not playing anybody outside of UConn that has an RPI basically lower than 120, something like that. So they're in a tough spot where they have won 9 in a row and what do we say, 18 out of 19? Tough to go on a month-long winning streak. I know the Cajuns won 17 in a row, last year, but that's hard. That's hard to do, and then lost a midweek ball game that they probably shouldn't have. So I appreciate the fans calling me out. Is basically, you guys were right. It's important for App State to have as good as RPI as possible. I know that means JMU's RPI is going to go down, but JMU's RPI is not helping the Sunbelt. It is, App State also, saw a clip of, Matt Daggs saying the same thing that we started to say last week. You want to be in the top 6 in the Sunbelt Conference tournament, and he thinks the Cajuns can be in the top 6. He's like, if we can't be number 1, let's be in the top 6, and we can win 3 or 4 in a row and possibly pull off a tournament win. All right. Having said that, I'm not sure we need to go all crazy. They did beat Old Dominion, right? I mean, that's nice. It's on the road. Road games are tough, but I mean, Old Dominion's 8-10 in the conference. They are overall, they are not very good. I mean, do they even have 15 wins? They are 13-24. So nice to win a series on the road. Would have been nicer to sweep it if you're the Cajuns. All right. Would have been nicer to sweep. But people are already basically looking ahead. Still got a month to go, and they're already talking about finishing in the top 6. He said it may be a little bit too much to finish first because they're a few games behind of Coastal Carolina, but it is important to not have to be in the play-in game. All right. But I do appreciate the fans calling me out. You guys were right. I was wrong. That's not usually the way this goes. I usually go all Brockmeyer, and I, you like to think I told you so. I love to say it, and we'll be doing so from time to time when you least expect it. Except in this case, you guys were right, and I was wrong. The teams need as much RPI power as they can have, as high as RPI. So it's important for App State not to lose such games, not only to get a high seed in the tournament, but to help out the rest of the conference. So you guys were right in this one. Thank you for reminding me how this whole thing started. All right. It's not just the big matchups like we'll be talking about next. Texas State hosting the number 1 ranked Longhorns. We'll talk about that and midweek action coming up right after this, after I tell you about Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere in an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets. And even when the demand is sky high, prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I got one of those last-minute deals to go to the Reds opening day. Reds tickets aren't very difficult to get except on opening day, and I saved a bunch of money. You can save up to 60% off buying last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Forgot to get my beverage. I got old coffee. We're not going to drink that. All right, a big ball game tonight is Texas State hosting the number one ranked Longhorns. And obviously something like that can be huge. Texas State right now, doesn't help them in the standings, obviously, because it's an out-of-conference ball game. But certainly could help the rest of it. Texas is second in the nation in RPI, right behind Georgia. Whereas Texas State, let's see where they're located. Texas State is right now 87, which is not bad for a team that is 19-20. That's a very odd deal. So it's a good schedule and some nice wins. And all of a sudden, by the way, that win over A&M, because they're playing much better. Like A&M stunk at one point in time, and now they are competing in the SEC. Their RPI is up to 37 because they've turned their season around. Still just a grand total of 23-16. But every A&M win against the SEC obviously helps Texas State. Let's see here. They did lose to Baylor and at TCU. They do have one win over Coastal. They've already beaten Texas April 1st, 5-3. They had a win over Baylor. All right. And they get, you would think that Texas would be overlooking them, but they're not going to overlook them. No, not going to overlook them. I don't think Texas, unless they fall on their face over the last month, they're going to be a national seed, right? And that's a little bit crazy with what's going on there. We talked about that a little bit, right? Because we went to the A&M regional last year, and there was talk of Texas firing their coach. And they did, but then they get the A&M coach. Is that what happened? And A&M's not any good. Well, has turned their season around. They started off really poorly. And Texas is right up there. So that's a big ball game it absolutely is a huge ball game for Texas State and the Sunbelt. I will say, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but it is interesting on, they have a nice win over Houston Christian RPI 100. They got a win over Texas, number one, ranked at the time, RPI number 2. They did lose to Baylor 71. They did lose to TCU 15. They got a win over A&M and a win over Oklahoma State. Just watching golf the other day, Justin Thomas from Louisville, by the way, beats Andrew Novak. Go look at Andrew Novak's season. He either makes the cut, or rephrase that, he either misses the cut or finishes in the top 10. It's a crazy season. I never heard of Andrew Novak, and I just wanted to look him up. And that's kind of like what Texas State is doing. They're beating these teams, Texas, Oklahoma State, A&M, but can't seem to do it in the Sunbelt, which has got to be really frustrating for the Bobcats and Bobcat fans. All right, elsewhere on a Tuesday, let's get a couple more ball games in. You got Coastal going to the College of Charleston. I'm heading there in a month to celebrate. That's where we're going for Mama Schultz's 85th birthday. College of Charleston just got crushed by those Northeastern Huskies. Like, I'm not sure they scored a run. No, they did not. They lost 4-0, 9-0, 10-0. So you really don't want to, lose this ball game if you are Coastal, because you're trying to get back to that national seed possibility. And you can't be losing to what's not a bad mid-major team, but their RPI is going to hurt you if you lose. Did they already lose to them? They've already lost to the College of Charleston. How about that? 15-5. They were 137 back then. Let's see if that's they're 137 right now. No, they need to make up for it. They actually lost at home, and now they're going to go play at Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, at the College of Charleston baseball stadium. And then Coastal gets James Madison. And again, these series are not made to be sweeps, but Coastal's got to sweep JMU. All right. As we saw, Coastal swept Marshall and their RPI went down. They could sweep JMU and their RPI goes down. If you lose, oh boy, one game, you saw what happened to App. And App's RPI wasn't anything special. It went from 144 down to 22. Think what happens if you have a top 20 RPI, top 15 RPI that Coastal has. Not great, Bob, is what would happen there. Georgia Southern is at Florida. That may be another situation where, Florida has not had a great season at all. Like they were, then they just played for the national championship and they are, they're struggling this year. Florida, actually, their RPI is 23, so maybe they have turned things around here. Conference-wise, conference record, they are 6-12. That tells you about the SEC. So overall, they are 27-15, but they're 6-12 in conference, and then have an RPI of 23. So their RPI is good. That's another ball game for the Sunbelt. So it's not just Texas, Georgia Southern playing at Florida. That would help out. East Tennessee State is at App State. Speaking of App State, and Marshall hosting Morehead State. Again, is that a ball game that you could, what do we think Morehead State is RPI? I have no idea. The easiest way to do that is to click on Marshall and find out. Morehead State is 247. You can't lose to Morehead State. Nope, you cannot do it. And that's going to put the Sunbelt in a bind, even if you do win against Texas and Florida, which would be two huge victories for the Sunbelt. All right, let's take another timeout. We'll come back, check out more midweek action. I'm recording this Monday evening. Did we get official word also about Jeff Puriton? I'm not sure if we did. I didn't see anything earlier in the day. I'm going to check it out during the break. Right back after I tell you about Prize Picks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first-inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Building my lineup, and this week I'm picking Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run, and Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 stolen base. It's that easy. And I always take advantage of today, Taco Tuesday, where Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's see. I Googled it a couple of times earlier today. Did we get any? No, we're still doing reports. It's all reports. It all started with A-State Nation reporting it, Pete Thamel confirming it. And give credit to Pete Thamel. He reported it, and then he said A-State Nation was first. So that's a good job by A-State Nation. So as of Monday night, there has been no official word, so to speak. We will see on why he left. Maybe it wasn't clear. It wasn't the best episode. I didn't even mention that he had his contract extended through 2028. So that's 25, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28. That was 3 more years. And after I recorded that episode the other day, or yesterday, as the case may be. As yesterday, as the case may be. He had to get a pay raise, right? He's not taking less money, even if it is a lesser job. Now, Matt Stewart did chirp in and say some ADs, including the Georgia Southern AD, went to Auburn, but he got more money. He took a lesser job than AD, but got more money because he ended up at the big-time school. Now, I guess my thought process was, and I didn't make it quite as clear, did he take less money for less of a headache? Because, what it used to be, and probably still is, an AD is 2 things. It's basically fundraising, 3 things. Fundraising, hiring, firing coaches, and putting out fires. And that's basically what it is. You are managing a lot of people with a lot of egos, whether it's coaches, players, other administrators, people you answer to, the money people. It is a finesse job. That is something that you got to be super duper confident in doing, because it takes it takes everybody to row and pull in the same direction. And so I could understand if I make a little bit less money, but have my weekends and I'm not dealing with an ever-changing landscape. Although if I'm selling the sponsorships, I'm still selling, which may not be easy either. Just be interested to know why he did it. We could get the whole, I want to spend more time with my family deal. It'd be hard pressed that someone actually took less money, but you never know. All right. Other midweek Sunbelt action coming up. West Georgia is at Georgia State. So again, a ball game that, Georgia State, can really not afford to lose. What do we think West Georgia is RPI wise? West Georgia is 211. Actually better than Moorhead. Again, those are games that you cannot lose if you are in the Sun Belt. Louisiana hosting Grambling. The Cajuns lose to Grambling this year? I'm not kidding. They may have. No, you know what they did? That was the game that we thought was going to turn it around. Oh, that was Texas Southern. Sorry. They have not played Grambling this year. They have not played Grambling this year. Grambling is 17-19. The Cajuns are 19-23. And not all that great at home. Their grand total of 14-12 at home. So this would, let's see what Grambling's RPI is. Grambling's RPI is 284. So again, you can't lose this ball game. It doesn't hurt their standing in terms of seeding, but there are some big time games. It's not just Texas and Texas State, Florida and Georgia Southern. Some of these other teams who are playing at home, although Georgia Southern is playing at Gainesville. Marshall's at home against Moorhead State. Georgia State's ahead, at home against West Georgia. The Cajuns at home against Grambling. Southern Miss taking on Tulane. Fun ball game. All right. Troy is at Alabama State. Probably don't want to lose that one. Arkansas State with a nice road trip is off to Memphis. Marshall's actually playing a home and home against Morehead State, playing them on Wednesday. We went over it a little bit. James Madison against Virginia on Wednesday. And the Cajuns actually a 5-game week. Wow. All right. As they are hosting Nichols. So everyone vying for seeding. Again, it would be shocking, and I'm using that word appropriately, if it's anybody but Coastal Carolina, Troy, and Southern Miss have not seen the consistency out of anybody. We'd like to think Arkansas State's got this great pitching, but they just lost 2 out of 3 to Georgia Southern. Cajuns went on the road. They did take 2 out of 3 from Old Dominion, but that's okay. That's Old Dominion. All right. And so, I'd be shocked if one of those 3 teams did not win it. I have not seen the consistency from anybody else. We've seen the improvement, seen App State improve. Marshall's been on a roller coaster ride, right? Georgia Southern did a good job taking 2 out of 3 from Arkansas State, but I would be shocked if that was the case. They said, this is what Degg said at the press conference, that he's got a team that he thinks can reels off 3 or 4 straight wins this year. They have won 4 in a row one time this year and 5 out of 6. And that was 3 over James Madison, beat Northwestern State, got hammered by Louisiana Tech. And remember, back then, they found themselves in the high 70s. They were like 77, maybe even 73, and then they lost to Louisiana Tech, and they haven't really been the same since. But for a team that he thinks can reel off, 3 or 4 straight wins, they've done that one time this year. Now, he did mention, teams mature at a different rate, and he even mentioned we can still lay an egg every now and then. We have to do better and be more consistent with what we have found. Let's check out that schedule. See what the Cajuns' schedule is. They got Georgia Southern at home. They got Georgia State on the road. They got Southern Miss and Arkansas State. So nothing is going to be easy. Can you win? He said 6 more wins. That's winning 3 of the 4 series. Is what that is. 6 more wins outside of sweeping. And as much as I hate it, there's no way coaches think that unless it's absolutely necessary at the time. No one thinks that going into a series. He may think it privately. Maybe he thought it with JMU, but I don't think they got a series to where they're thinking about sweeping. Maybe Arkansas State, but again, you'd have to win that Friday night ball game with Chase Morgan. Certainly not looking for a sweep against Georgia Southern or Georgia State, and certainly not Southern Miss on the road. We'll see if they can do that. And again, he has a good, I don't know, a game plan, but reasonable expectations to try and finish in the top 6. That's what he's looking to do. And right now they are 5th or tied for 6th. Let's see. I think they were tied for 6th. No, they are 5th. Georgia Southern and Georgia State are actually tied for 5th, although that's 7 teams. That makes 7 teams. So don't get me on the Sunbelt tiebreakers. I ain't starting that yet. We'll figure that out later. Those tiebreakers give me a headache, and you know that. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do have a potential head football coach joining us for Thursday's episode. And then we have another one for maybe next week. Going to be busy at work over the next 10 days or so. We have this little horse race called the Kentucky Derby, although I still get some time off. So I'm still off on Wednesday and then Monday and Tuesday of Derby week. Now, Thursday night of Derby week, Yacht Rock Review is coming to town. I'm not going to miss that. And then, for those who know, The Tuesday night after Derby week is Samantha Fish. So that's outstanding as well. So actually some good music and two radically different music. Yacht Rock is Yacht Rock and Samantha Blues rocks and is blues guitars. So, originally from Missouri, but now I think makes her home in New Orleans, as it turns out. All right. Anyways, got off on a tangent. A little bit better of an episode today, at least a little bit more coherent in my mind. We'll wait and see if we do get any official reports on Jeff Puriton on Tuesday. We will report back on Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on a Wednesday.